Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Pacific Unitarian Church. My name is Darcy Carroll, and I'm your worship associate today. We also welcome our viewers who are online. So you might notice that a little bit fewer people today because today is the day of the Long Beach Pride Parade, and most all of our kids are there. Our kids and teenagers are there, and a lot of our parents and adults are there too. But we're here, yay, in our beautiful setting. And this church is an inclusive community, open and accepting of all creeds, races, sexual orientations, and gender identities. This is a wonderful day because it's August 6th, and it's a wonderful day because Minister Chloe is back today. Yay! We come here to be our better selves. We have a lovely lunch happening, and that's another thing that started up after being not available for the last 6 weeks while our top shelves had a well-deserved break. So today we have a lovely lunch available. It's on the patio. If there's anybody here for the first time, lunch is on us. Just a really brief history of this beautiful church that we're in. You know, Pacific Unitarian Church actually started in 1957, if any of you didn't know that, and it started in a little recreation building in Walteria, 1957. And then they had a few other spots too in between, but then started here. This was completed, our beautiful church here was completed in 1965, and the very first service was an impromptu outdoor service as a memorial to JFK. That was the first service. Anyway, and this church has a long and storied reputation of social activism. So today, I mentioned the Pride Parade today, so that's where a lot of people are. Over the next couple of months, we'll be hiring a new religious education coordinator, and we'd like to know your thoughts. So what do you hope for in RE at PUC? What do you think we should look for in a new RE coordinator? And what do you think the priorities should be for this part-time position? So, and you'll find at the table out there where you can verbally or written give your opinion on that. Sunday, August 13th, after the service in the hall. Not today, next Sunday for that. Save the date, please, for Chloe's ordination, which is going to be September 16th. That's a Saturday at 3 p.m., and we'd really like for you to RSVP. There's a RSVP link online, or if you can also get there by the newsletter that comes to you, The View, or you could just go on our site, and so we can get an idea of how many people are coming. That's the 16th, a Saturday at 3 p.m., And I think the last announcement I have is about Lunch Love, which we mentioned last week. The Lunch Love, where we make lunches for people who need food. Every Monday, they're needing more food donations. And if at the welcome table, to have a little list of what they need specifically, what they would really like for food donations. So that's it. And now we will have the chalice lighting.
Okay. So we've heard from the audience that we are short people tomorrow for Lunch Love. So if you'd like to join us at 1 p.m., they need help packing lunches. And so I invite you to take a breath with me this morning for our chalice lighting. Let's breathe in and out. In and out. And we light this chalice in honor of the summer sun that's warming us today, and in honor of all of our kids and youth who are at Pride this morning. I couldn't be more proud of them for being there. So we light our chalice in that spirit this morning. Have to get my iPad open, sorry. So good morning. My name is Chloe Briede, as Darcy said, and I'm the interim minister here at Pacific Unitarian Church, and I'm happy to be back with you all this morning after some time away. A couple announcements from me. I want to remind you all to join me in reading our summer book, our summer read, which is What Happened to You, and it's by Oprah Winfrey and Bruce Perry. It's an important book about trauma and what happens when we overcome trauma. So if you're interested in the brain or in people or why people act certain ways, I definitely encourage you to join me. And you have almost a month still to read the book. So if you haven't started it, now is the time to read it. I particularly love the audiobook, so join me on that one. And we'll have a discussion after church on Sunday, the 27th of August. And if you can't make it on Sunday, we'll also have a discussion the next day on Monday, the 28th on Zoom. So join me for that. Let's enter into worship this morning with these opening words by Carrie Newcomer, who's a poet and singer, and she calls them, What Makes Sense? I pledge allegiance to a drop of dew wobbling on a broccoli leaf, to the silver pattern on a zucchini frond, a perfect spiral in the center of a cabbage head. I bow my head to the licorice smell of fennel filigree, the taste of rounded peas and high-knee corn, and the perfect dun of barley hay. I namaste to a row of beans, to garlic scapes and turnip greens, to the sweetness of the sweet potato vines, to the last red radish and the first blueberry. I lift my face to the summer sun, the sound of larks and the feel of dirt, to all that makes sense in senseless times. So on this August morning, I welcome you to worship with us. Our opening hymn this morning is number 66, When the Summer Sun is Shining, and you're invited to rise as you're willing and able.
Flowers in the hedgerow welcome.
I forgot one announcement. Sorry about that, Kelly. We get the postcards next week. We're going to be doing postcarding for the situation of Virginia. We'll be having a postcarding party, which we've done before, out on the patio in the meditation garden, and that's September 9th, and the postcards will be available next week. See Kelly if you want more information.
So if we have any children today, you're welcome to come down and join me. Oh, it looks like we have perhaps one. Most of our folks are off at Pride, but I'm so excited to have you with us today. We do have London and John here for childcare if anybody needs that. So I wanted to share with you all today a little bit about Sikhism and in particular, something I found fascinating about the founder of Sikhism. So Kelly, if you would show that map, that would be great. Thank you. How are you this morning? Good? Glad to hear it. So the founder of Sikhism, his name was Guru Nanak. So can everybody say that after me? Guru Nanak, yeah. And he was born in the village of Telwandi Ray Boa Ki, which is now a part of Pakistan. He was a saint, a spiritual thinker, a mystic, a poet, a traveler, and a philosopher. And the Sikhs actually say that he was the second most traveled person ever. Yeah. And that's right. It was after the well-known Moroccan scholar and explorer Ibn Battuta. Guru Nanak is considered, before planes and cars existed, the second most traveled person in the world. And I'm a little bit, skeptical about this, but I do think it's an interesting thing about him. Probably the second most traveled person that was recorded, I would guess. So between 1500 and 1524, spanning 24 years, he traveled over 28,000 kilometers. And he made 5 major udassis, or odysseys, or journeys during his lifetime. And many of those were on foot or on horse. And you can see these are all of his journeys up here on the board. And I found this pretty fascinating, honestly. And he made all of these trips with a friend of his named Bhai Mardana, who was a Muslim, and his childhood friend who accompanied him. The two complemented each other as they traveled to distant lands. And Guru Nanak would sing hymns the whole time, and his friend would actually play a musical instrument, a stringed musical instrument called a rabab. And they would create these sort of soulful hymns together as they traveled. So why do we think he traveled so much? Do you have any guesses why he traveled? Any guesses? Curiosity, yeah. Any other guesses why he traveled so much? Proselytizing, yeah, probably a little bit, yeah. Other guesses? He liked it, yeah. That sounds good too, right? At a very young age, Guru Nanak began to question sort of the religious and social beliefs and practices around him. He was upset about seeing a society that was dominated by superstition, rituals, hypocrisy, the untouchability of the caste system, and irrationality, he thought. And as a Hindu by birth, he had studied Islam, and he had met his friend Mardana. Guru Nanak was quick to also learn other languages. He spoke Punjabi, Hindi, Sanskrit, and Persian. So he could read all these scriptures. And the more he read, the more he questioned things. Very you in that way. He read and he read and he read and he questioned and he questioned and he questioned. He was disturbed by some of the sort of stuff that he viewed as not being true that people were saying. So his thoughts centered on the existence of a one God, omnipresent God, formless God, believing that all humans, irrespective of faith and caste and profession, were equal under this one God. And he wanted to go out and tell people about this and about his message, so to proselytize a little bit, to go out and spread this spiritual message. But I think he also wanted to learn things from different faiths. If you see his faith, it actually sort of encompasses Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam into it. So back then, when he was traveling on foot, it wasn't easy. I mean, can you imagine not having a car or an airplane and traveling this far? There was diseases and plunderers and wildlife. It was a lot of unknown lands that he explored. And so they say that he was 30 years old when he started this journey, and that it went for 24 years. He had his 5 different trips, to the north, to the east, to the west, and the south, including traveling extensively in India and to Afghanistan, Bangladesh, China, Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Nepal, and then modern-day Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Saudi Arabia, Tibet, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. So if you think about this, he visited and met so many people on his journey and sort of engaged them in conversation and dialogue. And one thing to keep in mind was that things were pretty rigid at that time. People had these traditions and they weren't changing their mind. So it wasn't easy for him to come in and say, well, I don't know if I agree with you. Let's talk about that. Let's dialogue over this. But he was actually received very warmly by everyone he met, and he would get in these really nice, long conversations with people. And I think that's because he went in listening and sort of hearing what people had to say instead of just going in to fight with them about his beliefs. So that's my theory on it. And something that was especially interesting to me, that as someone who grew up Hindu, he actually went to Mecca and Medina, which is not allowed for a non-Muslim to visit the Holy Land. And so there's a lot of different theories out there. One was that, he had gone in sort of under the radar as a spy. But I think the one that I like especially is that he felt so universally connected to all these different religions that he could go into the Muslim Holy Land and say, yes, I'm a Muslim too. I'm a Muslim and I'm a Hindu and I'm all these things because, my philosophy is so universal in this way. So I wanted to share with you all the travels of this great guru, which is something that I've learned this summer. So thank you. Thank you. We're not singing the children out today, but you're either welcome to stay in the service or there are some folks playing in the children's rooms right now with John in London. So it's up to you. And if you all would join me in our centering hymn, a meditation on breathing.
I invite you to listen to the different melodies in this and choose one to either hum or sing along to, but we're going to layer it like a cake. Oh
when I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
Ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a spiritual community where we find meaning. Ours is a sharing community where our joys are amplified, and a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. We take this moment to reflect on our joys and sorrows and acknowledge the mutual support of our community. If you'd like, you may come forward and light a candle in silence or with a brief verbal expression telling us your special joy or sorrow.
Light one last candle for any unspoken joys or sorrows.
Our prayer today comes from the Reverend Laurel Littlejohn Gray, and it starts out with a reading, and then I'm going to ask you to pray with me. She says, "When I Googled prayer for queer kids, the first hit is all sin. Asking God to force repentance for what I call holiness. So I yell, she says. I swear and I rage and I feel the heat of fury mixed with protection. Absolutely not. That thing they despise, I call it sacred. I call it sacred. This being oneself in a world that suggests repentance with a tone of holier than thou damnation. No, not here, not in this house. There will be no repenting for the courage to love honestly, for the ways your gender beckons you to bloom. No, this is a prayer for the queer kids, a ring of fire protecting the Eden that exists inside of embodied love. In this house, we speak only of the holiness and existing honestly, and living and loving fully. Reverend Gray continues, and I invite you to pray her prayer with me. My prayer for the queer kids is this, she says. May you find the people who love you fiercely. May the God of grace fill your lungs with life when people leave you grasping through tears. May you know in your bones that you can never be separated from all that is sacred because it exists inside of you. It exists in every gesture of love you dare to offer the world, a salve to the soul bruise of anyone who believes they are only somewhat worthy, an act of holy defiance. You, my dear, are glorious, just as you are, now and forever. May it be so. Amen. And we'll take a moment of silence. I think I missed you all, and I missed the music a lot too, right? It's nice to be back after some time away. This summer, I got to spend some time on vacation in India, visiting with family, and some time on study leave at my home in Long Beach. Each of these periods were rich with learning and exploration. And as a brief aside, I want to mention what exactly ministers do when they say study leave. We get the sort of standard kinds of time off, vacation and sick time, but we also get some pretty unique types of leave as well. Study leave is a time away from work to study or learn or plan. Some ministers use it for reading books or watching documentaries or listening to podcasts, and others use it to plan out the church year. In fact, it's been sort of fun for me to see how my colleagues use their study leave. One minister took a picture of the books he was reading, one on, something you'd expect, like conversational preaching, and the other was the best sports writing of the year. And you could really tell that some ministers really like those sports analogies. And I also did some reading myself, a book on Sikhism from the Time for All Ages, and also a rereading of our summer read that I'm inviting you all into, the What Happened to You book. Another shared her preaching schedule for the entire year, laid out on little 3x5 index cards on her living room floor. So she had written out each holiday and each topic and had all the index cards all over her floor. It was pretty cool to see. Settled ministers, which is what I am not, I'm an interim minister, but settled ministers also get sabbatical time, which is accrued 1 month per year of service and is typically taken around the 5 or 6 year mark. It's like a study leave ranging from 3 to 6 months, with an articulated plan for renewal and skill building. Ministers usually have reading lists or take classes, hoping to come back to their church as better preachers with more pastoral care skills, or even with a couple new adult education classes to teach. I'm taking this time to mention what study leave and sabbatical is as a part of a practice I hope to engage over the next couple of months with you all. An effort to help PUC understand more about ministry and all the different aspects of being a minister, especially as you all go into search for your new settled minister this year. In fact, as I said in my newsletter column this week, I'm proud of the way some of our small groups here at church have already started to think about what a minister does and what they might want in their next minister. I had a lovely conversation with our senior covenant group about this subject on Tuesday. And although we're only in August at the moment, autumn and fall and October and November are going to be coming sooner than we think, and there's going to be important feedback that we're going to offer the Ministerial Search Committee during that time. Both of these types of leave, vacation and study, are rich sources of inspiration for me. Probably unsurprising, the interactions with people and with a culture different than mine were the most fruitful for reflection this summer. My first lesson from my time away is something we probably all know a little bit. I don't know everything. There's still so much to learn in the world. And that probably applies to everything I'm going to talk about today. During my trip, I had the privilege of visiting 6 different faith communities. That's how rich things are in India. 2 of which were Jainism and Sikhism, and they were completely new to me. I knew nothing about these faiths. I hadn't taken any classes in seminary or even in, other formal education settings, or even really learned about them on a personal level. Perhaps you know this feeling. My lack of knowledge was a motivator. In particular, I wanted to learn more about Sikhism after meeting a UU minister who identified as a UU Sikh. She held both those identities in tandem, both UU and Sikh, which I thought was cool. While in India, I visited a Sikh Gurdwara, the Sikh house of worship and gathering, and this one in particular was first constructed in 1783 and marked the place where the 9th guru who the guru or the teacher, the 9th teacher, was beheaded by the then Mughal emperor. The building was huge, and it was pretty ornate on the outside, a white building, and then the interior was very simple and clean, carpeted floors with the holy book in the center and a band playing hymns near the holy book. The word Sikh means a learner or a truth seeker. It's a monotheistic religion, as I said before, with influences from Hinduism and Islam and Buddhism. They believe in a universal God with tenets that call for unity and equity between humans, selfless service, justice for all, and honest and ethical conduct of personal affairs. And learning this and reading on my study leave about the history of Sikhism, I could see how a UU was drawn to this faith. It helped me understand this person a lot more. I was also struck in my reading by the parallels between the message of Guru Nanak and other religious prophets. Sikhism was founded in a way as a response to the inequality of the time. The caste system in India was particularly strong, and kings and emperors ruled with brutality. There's, in fact, some of the starting stories of Guru Nanak say that he witnessed a brutal war, and that's part of what sort of made him more spiritual. Guru Nanak, like Jesus and Sakyamuni Buddha, was a privileged person who left the confines of his upbringing enraged against the inequalities he saw in the world. He also sought to find universal teachings, identifying with all those different faiths and drawing on their truths and critiquing their faults or contradictions. All of this learning has inspired me to delve deeper into the history and practices of this faith, and I'm hoping to teach a short adult education class about it with you all sometime this fall, and maybe even go see a Gurdwara together if we'd like. So that was my first lesson this summer. Some good intellectual learning, right? This summer, I also had some learnings about some less intellectual stuff, about intercultural and interpersonal communication. Most middle or upper class Indians speak English, so language wasn't an issue most of the time. Instead, I had to learn that words can have different meanings and that a comment or response that's typical in American culture doesn't always translate into Indian culture. For example, I learned saying I like something, for instance, like I really like your necklace, means that I want that necklace. And so multiple times I would tell somebody, oh, I really like that. And then they would very generously try to give it to me. And I found myself trying to decline people's very well-intentioned gifts. And my partner and their family, after seeing my confusion multiple times, told me, if you say you like something, it means you want it. And I had inadvertently been asking people to give me their stuff. So what I thought was a compliment, what we would say every day, oh, I really like your skirt, or I really like this, was me being both a little bit silly and also kind of greedy. So perhaps a little too late in my trip, I started rephrasing my comments a bit. Oh, that looks really nice on you, or that color is beautiful. It was interesting to sort of see that happening. We often talk about cultural differences in our anti-racism work here at PUC. Working with the multicultural transformation team, we've talked about how we can communicate across differences, primarily as we've worked with staff members from different backgrounds or welcomed new congregants into our midst. And we've sometimes had to learn the hard way that comments don't always mean the same thing to everyone, and that some cultures, even within the US, rely on more explicit or more implicit language than others, or perhaps even the word like might mean something a little different to one culture or another. I've even noticed coming here to California from Boston that the directness I was used to in Boston doesn't always go over well here in California. A good lesson to check in when the comments we make or the conversations we have don't seem to click the same with everybody. My last lesson from the summer, or at least the last one for now, I'm sure you'll hear more at some point, connects to where our children, youth, and families are today: pride. Multiple times as I was preparing for my trip to India, friends and even my therapist brought up one issue. How would it be going to India as a gay couple? Would you feel comfortable? Would your family feel comfortable? Would you be at risk? To be honest, I hadn't even considered these questions until others around me brought them up. India recently decriminalized homosexual relations in 2018, 5 years ago. Acceptance of gay and lesbian people are only increasing in India. It's sort of like here, maybe 20 years ago, with films and TV shows featuring gay characters. India also protects transgender rights and allows people to register as a third gender for official government purposes. Queer people, though, don't enjoy the right to marry or adopt children, and poverty and sexual violence is still common, especially towards trans and intersex people in India. My well-meaning, questioning friends weren't without some justification for their questions. I went to India with an open mind, aware that public displays of affection aren't commonplace there, and that at times, especially at hotels or restaurants, my spouse would be my friend. And I was pleasantly surprised. My spouse's family was welcoming beyond belief, excited to spend time with me and include me in the family. They celebrated our marriage with parties. We had 2 extra weddings while in India, and a more traditional religious party or Western-style reception. Even the photographer they hired was kind and accepting and did, all the traditional wedding poses with us of, this and everything else. So along with parties, I was welcomely included with cousins and friends and even gifted a set of saris and a ring that had belonged to my spouse's grandmother. There may have been some tears over that. I connect this to our youth's celebration of Pride today because they're celebrating and honoring and marching in honor of LGBT people and our right to exist in the world. And I'm happy to say the world is changing, and in some places faster than we think. This summer, I learned that love can overcome prejudice and the unknown. Love can help a family accept a gay couple into its midst, even when we're the first gay couple in that family. Although queer rights, and especially trans rights, are continually challenged, there's still progress being made. There is a reason to have pride today and to celebrate. I was honored to be brought into a family with the power of love. Beloveds, what lessons have you learned recently? Both expected and unexpected. What learnings have you been blessed with during this season? I'm excited to bring these lessons into our new church year together, continuing to talk about diversity and multicultural inclusion, continuing to explore other faiths and our own belief systems, and continuing to fight for justice and equity and the rights of everyone, knowing that love and deep relationship can change the world. I'm excited to be back with you and to continue our learning and growing together. May it be so. Amen. And there's a slight change from your program. Our offering today is going to be offered by both Abraham and Sarah. So we get a clarinet treat today.
This tune is called A Sunday Kind of Love.
A Sunday Kind of Love from a lovely, lovely couple. Would you please join me in our affirmation of gratitude? Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for all those who share their gifts, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us also be grateful even for our needs, so that we may experience the generosity of others. Oh, now as our closing hymn, number 318, We Would Be One. You could stand as you're willing or able.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves.
This is a church dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences, beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts, now and forevermore. So be it. Amen. Shalom. Salam. Namaste. And blessed be. And now our service truly begins.
This is called Only Hope. There's a song that's inside of my soul. It's the one that I've tried to sing over and over again. I'm awake in the infinite cold, but you sing to me over and over and over again. So I lay my head back down and I lift my hands and pray to be only yours. I pray to be only yours. I know now you're my only hope. Sing to me the song of the stars, of your galaxy dancing and laughing again. When it feels like my dreams are so far, sing to me of the plans that you have for me over again. So I lay my head back down and I lift my hands and I pray to be only yours. I pray to be only yours. I know now you're my only hope. I want your destiny. I'll give you all of me. I want your symphony, singing in all that I am at the top of my lungs. I'm giving it back. So I lay my head back down and I lift my hands and I pray to be only yours. I pray to be only yours. I pray. I know now you're my only hope.
Lunch is served outside. It is $5 if you're one of our regular attendees, and if you are new to PUC, lunch is on us. Please join us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's lovely.
Thank you. Felt a little bit like the, all the stuff in the soup, but I thought people might want to hear what I've been up to.
Yeah, absolutely.